It is the 16th of August, year of our Lord 2021. It is the regular meeting for the St. Albans Town Selectboard, and we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag, to the United States of America, and to the republic which stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Stuttering over. Okay, so we have some warrants in front of us. I'm gonna pass that down. We have a general fund warrant with Jonathan to start with.
I have the general fund warrant dated August 12th, 2021. Some of the larger things to note is the AmCare ambulance service, Blue Cross Blue Shield health insurance, some fire pump hose equipment for the fire department for $5,000, and some paving for $13,000. And that, let's see, St. Albans Rec Department, $23,000 there too. So that's pretty much that. So I'm going to make a motion we approve this warrant in the amount of $106,840.29.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
I have a quick question.
Oh, you do?
Oh, I do. So,
Last possible second.
well, I was, yeah. So the AmCare ambulance service, we pay that every quarter, that 12th, every month. Remember a while back there was a lady that came in here about a bill. Did that ever get like resolved with her? Like what?
Well, since that she came in, the company changed too. Now it's a for-profit owned by.
We didn't have anything directly to do with that, so I did follow up and ask them, and he said it was a normal and customary bill, so people do get billed for services.
Right. Yeah, because I've been there before.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I was just wondering.
There's also a woman who comes in periodically to ask for a copy of her contract. We don't have a contract right now.
Right.
It's informal.
So
at this point.
he usually comes in, or he or she or whoever the guy
Yes.
was. He comes in like once a year, doesn't he?
Yes,
Usually
before now, because Walter Cruel, who owned AmCare Ambulance, would come in and request a certain amount of money per year.
Yeah.
And he'd also pay the dispatch for EMT through his contract. But what Brendan's alluding to is subsequently was bought by someone else over the winter. I think it was February-ish or something like that.
Company out of Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so they specialize in small services like this. So I don't know what the process is going to look like this year.
They seem to be well run. I don't know what you see at the health department, but they're at our events doing vaccine pop-ups. They seem to be. I don't know if the sheriff.
We can talk about it at budget time, but it is something you have to, as a town,
I guess
name your ambulance service.
We could.
Well, that's fine.
We should, now that it's a different business, maybe we should put it in the form of some kind of a contract. I don't know if there's, I don't know, and it's a tricky thing. We'll have to navigate it well, because you remember in Highgate when they switched from MBR to AmCare and then back to MBR, how that whole thing worked. So it's definitely an interesting one. But yeah. Okay, any other comments or questions? All in favor of Jonathan's motion?
Aye.
Perfect. Aaron has payroll warrants.
Yep, I have two payroll warrants in front of me, one dated August 6th in the amount of $24,429.73, and then another dated for August 13th for $25,132.32. So these are pretty average. There's no quarterly other payments in these ones.
Correct.
So these are just standard payroll. So I'll go ahead and make a motion that we approve these two payroll warrants.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Perfect. Okay, I've got three. I'm going to start with the Infrastructure Development Fund, or the Local Option Tax Revenue Coffer. It's for the Town Holocaust Center. It's for a total amount of $31,163.03, and almost $31,000 of that is Department of Public Safety, and that's was that for a DFS permit?
It is.
Yeah, labor and industry and all
And
that
it's
good
based
stuff.
on square footage. We have no choice.
You gotta pay what you gotta pay.
Yes.
So, And another one, we're reimbursing Corey $77.92 and paying Ruggiano an invoice for $190. So we take a motion to approve that infrastructure development warrant dated August 16th, 2021 in the amount of $31,163.03.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We've got a normal industrial park warrant. It's dated August 16th, 2021. It's all Green Mountain Power accounts for a total of $602.84. Take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Yep, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Now we have the Stonehouse warrant. This is the bands related to Saturday Night Live. It's 4 invoices totaling $6,650. So the sponsorship money, Alan and John raised about $40,000 from area businesses. That was deposited in the Stonehouse fund. We're paying some invoices with that money. It's Alan and John have done a really good job this year, raising money, having events, getting real acts. One thing that we're going to probably shift next year to be a little different is deposit the sponsorship money and whatnot and all the event revenue in the general fund, run all the invoices for the events through the general fund, and then Alan and Anna and Carrie will come together on how often, whether it's by event or quarterly or once a season, we'll transfer whatever the net gain or the profit was, and we'll donate that back over to the Stonehouse Fund. That way it's, but I will say, everybody that submitted an invoice, because I did check out of curiosity, just reading through here, everybody's coded correctly. We have a W-9 on every single payee, so we're following the policy. So August 16th, 2021, Stonehouse warrant, $6,650.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so that's it for warrants tonight. We've got some minutes in front of us from our last select board meeting. It was August 2nd. Seems like it was like a month and a half ago. Does anybody have any corrections? Comments?
Nope, no corrections.
Entertain a motion.
Make a motion, we approve the minutes of August 2nd, 2021.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Perfect. Public comment. Do you have anyone here who would like to make a public comment? Mrs. Giroux? No?
Oh, here it goes.
Oh, what the heck. We have a big tree that's like hanging over into the street on our hill. Just looking to see, I see it's been marked with orange. I don't know if that was the town's doing or if they plan on cutting that, but the bus is going to be coming up the hill pretty soon next week, so I don't want anything to hit it or to fall.
Do you know why it was marked?
I marked that.
Alan, could you just, they can't hear you very well, so.
Come on.
I have marked that tree. I've marked several trees in the community that need to come down. Having a little trouble getting tree companies right now, but it is a stable tree. The bus will not hit it, but it is going to come out eventually.
How many would you say, Alan, are down or are marked
Going
that
to
way?
be down.
They're predestined to be down.
As far as real important ones, I'd probably say I got at least 5 or 6 out there, but there's several trees in the town that in the right of ways that need to come down eventually.
Did we formally appoint Alan Tree Warden this year for a 1-year term?
No, you did not.
I don't believe that we did.
No.
We should, perhaps.
Yeah, it's one of those offices. Used to be you appointed somebody, the tree warden, and every time somebody wanted to take a tree down the town right away, it turned into like a tabletop discussion of, that's my tree, it gives me shade, and I don't have AC. And people were like, well, it's dangerous. Well, it's my tree. Like, I need it to survive the summer. And that's where that position came from. And then as people got better infrastructure and technology, and we've all kind of turned into hermits and, isolationists, socially, especially over the last year, the need for a tree warden is dissipated. But we usually appoint Alan for the sake of filling the position.
I work closely with the state forester,
And Nancy?
Nancy Patch.
Nancy Patch. any trees that are along waterways or whatever, I definitely make sure a tree in this example is a safety hazard, I feel, down the road. The way it is leaning off that bank, it could cause a problem. Trees that are out along our roadways and the rest of the town, I don't get too concerned about with the state, just for the simple reason, if you go along Dunsmore, there's several dead trees. They're slowly dying out, they're hollow, so we have to work on getting them down. So,
You think that'll be a budgetary consideration, or do you think you have the?
it's a lot of things, we got a budget for it, because even borrowing the city bucket truck, it doesn't have the reach to reach a lot of the top of the trees to take it down safely. And we can't just drop a tree across the road, and especially with the wires, so usually we hire a tree service to do it, but
Need to for the liability of it all.
But
I
you
mean-
you take it away and get rid of it to save us money.
usually I make a deal with the tree company. If they're knocking it down, we haul it away, and we help do the chipping, we do the flagging, that keeps the cost down, but, you know, an average 120-foot tree is right around $1,200. So, it doesn't take long to add up and cost money.
Good enough.
Okay.
We're still on public comment. Anybody else have anything they'd like to add?
Kate from the Messenger. We're not asking you to ask any questions.
Okay, seeing none. On to agenda item 5, no board action, but we do want to thank Jessica Frost for serving as the inaugural chair of the Parks Committee for the last couple of years, since 2018, that summer. We want to thank her for all of the good work she's done for the town on behalf of Rise Vermont. We're a gold standard municipality, and I think when Jessica first walked through the door, we might have been rated for lead, like, honestly. So we really appreciate all the hard work she's done, and we want to wish her the best in her new job at the hospital, and, you know, hope everything works out beautifully for her. That said, we had a Parks Committee meeting last week, was it, Alan? And we lobbed the idea around of doing a master plan for the park system with like a real landscape architect, and really sitting down and thinking, this is what we'd like to see, but how can we actually make it work? Because Alan's got a lot of great ideas for Bay Park. It's just we're to the point now where we've got to figure in for a big replacement mound system that we haven't built yet, but we'll have to someday when the septic for the stone house fails. You know, we've got a lot of needs. There's little leagues using the park more than ever now. Alan's got the idea to use a collapsing batting cage that you can pull out when you use it and put it back, and then the only stationary thing is like a shed that holds a lot of the equipment. So there's a lot of things to be done. It's just figuring out how we want to make it fit. There's an idea, Jessica said, that all the way around Cohen Park is about a perfect quarter mile. So the thought was, can you build some kind of a path using some of the pavement we've already got, or add new? We've got all the millings every year. Is that something, you know, we've got a paving budget, we've got base. Is that something we could do? And it's just getting somebody in, and it's going to cost money. My guess is a consultant like that. It seems like every time you talk to a consultant, it's $50,000. So,
It's Bay Park alone.
really,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I priced out all the parks. Bay Park about 50, the future boat launch about 17.5. Cohen Park would be significant. I didn't even ask about the town forest because it was like at that point.
Well, we
they
had
go
a-
out per acre.
Jessica's done a lot of good work at the town forest with Carrie and
Yeah,
Alan
so
also.
I was just looking for ballpark.
Well, what we-
information to share.
What we thought about was the town forest. It seems Sinuosity, the contractor that we had to refurbish the trails, according to Jessica, said it's pretty well built out, and it's going to be hard to fit more trails up there. So we can kind of rest assured knowing that the trail network's built, and then maybe focus our attention as probably be an item that'll have to wait till after the town hall's done. We have more ability to focus high-level staff time on it, but we'll figure out the access road, Forest Drive, and whatever
So-
the solution's going to be there.
There are, because we don't have the budget for that this year, there are 2 grants that I am looking at to apply to do the boat launch. There's a $22,000 max community planning grant I haven't applied for it. It's not till November to application. I was thinking about doing that one for the boat launch. And then there's another grant where you can't pay for all of the majority of the money cannot be spent on planning. They want it actually to go into something. So I've talked to Alan briefly about it, but potentially we know we would like to do some kind of a stage there. So maybe do an application where we could ask for the stage, a 40% of the money for planning, and then put enough money in for the new signs with the new logo.
Yeah.
So that way we could say the majority of the money is not for planning, but it gets us our planning plus something we know we want there. So I'm clearing it. The person's been on vacation, but I'm just trying to clear it by them that they'd be okay with that kind of an application if that would even pass their test of trying to get it. But I've been trying to look for creative ways to find that money.
When we get to other business, we'll ask Alan how Saturday Night Live went. I saw on Facebook today over 450 people. My wife and I did not go because we had a 6-hour baby course that day, and they teach you that everything you say can be heard. So we didn't want to like rock the womb. So we're 36 weeks today. We're inside of a month. My wife's hoping. What's that?
One more meeting.
Yeah, I know. That's crazy. So that's I guess I'd call it, I don't think we took an action, recorded it in the minutes, but I think I'd call the need for a master plan a Parks Committee recommendation to the Select Board.
And just so you guys know, I've talked, so the park's a historic area, and if when we do the master plan, work with the Vermont, whatever, the Department of Historic Preservation, they agree to the things we do, it'll lessen the permitting needs we need. Like we'll
So
still
then
get
it'd
active
just be
permit, and they'll
streamlined.
just,
Yeah.
they'll just be like, we'll be like, this is something we agreed to, and
Yeah, there's multiple people with their fingers in the Bay Park pie, and we
Yeah.
got to get everybody eating off of the same.
right, once everyone kind of agrees, it's
Mhm.
it's not going to be as difficult to get a permit when we say, oh wow, we have this money, we'd like to do this, and then we go through the process, and then it's a new fiscal year by the time we get a permit. This way, we'll just be able to, we'll kind of almost get like a master permit to do the work.
Well, and hopefully someday we finish up the stone house, and we're not raising money for that every year. It could be, this year we're raising money for this part of the plan.
It will slow down though. I mean, we'll get a plan in place, but then you can't
Yeah, you can plan-
mid-cycle change it or add something new. It's gonna slow it down as far as it'll be very methodical and intentional when we change something or add something.
But that's the direction we would like to head.
Absolutely, I get it. It's just in case a new idea comes up in the next month after.
Then Alan and John will play a integral part in whatever this planning process ends up looking like.
Mhm.
I mean, they'll probably get the grant that pays for the plan. Corey's looking into some, but it seems like every time Alan talks to Bethany at regional planning, we get a check for $100,000. So, thank you, Alan. So that's all we had under Parks and Rec Committee. We're also recruiting, and we talked to among the committee about the idea of maybe asking a vendor from the farmers market and then a reoccurring band act and bringing in stakeholders and maybe aren't town residents. And I think one of the vendors we settled on that would be perfect is a resident of Fairfield. So we're gonna reach out, and I don't know that there's a formal Parks Committee policy, but I think the precedent was set that the committee members would be appointed by the Select Board. So we'll just follow that. When we have some interested people, they'll be in front of us. But Alan and John are gonna work on recruiting. I think Jessica had some people to reach out to, and we still have Brad and Liz Jackson from Gracebrook. And they're awesome. They attend every meeting, participate a lot. We also, while we're talking about Parks and Rec, we got to thank Valdemar Garibay and everybody that volunteered to pick up cigarette filters all over town, the industrial park and the Bay Park, thousands. And you don't think about it. I mean, I go to Bay Park, I go to walk. Like, I'm not there to think about the thousands of cigarette filters in the ground. But I want to thank them for everything they've done this year. We'll continue to do.
Brendan, just to, so when you were talking about Jessica before, is she officially leaving the Parks?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. So we're chairless, but between
Standing
Alan,
room only.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Between Alan and John and Jen and Carrie and Corey every once in a while, I think once we recruit some people, that committee in itself is more led by staff. they're really using the committee to seek input, which is the way it should be. We're just there to provide feedback and streamline a recommendation to the select board for funding, which is why the Parks Committee's there. It's a conduit for ideas, really. And I imagine the Parks Committee will have quite a bit of time to log over whenever we get enough money in the kitty to pay for the master plan. But even then, it'll be mostly led by staff looking for input. So, well, everybody's all good with that. We're gonna set that as an objective to be worked out whenever we can get our hands on some free money. The master plan. Nothing we're gonna pay for ourselves right off. We're just identifying it as a priority, and we're gonna work towards getting a grant to pay for it, like the scoping study for the health path, which
Yep.
you know, we might have to wait to do this until the scoping study for the health path is over. But
That's a detrain that would never do this.
right, but you might have so much time invested in that. At some point, that's going to get heavy, and then you won't have to do anything for a month, and then you'll be nagging for 3 months to get your information from the consultant. Maybe, hopefully not. Anyway, so, and all right. So, any other questions about Parks and Rec, or the committee, or anybody interested in serving? I know we've got a Recreation Commission from St. Albans.
Well,
Recreation
former.
Commissioner.
Yeah, I'll think about that.
Okay, that'd be cool. We got a nice deep bench, like multi-tool players. All right, Carrie.
That's it. All right. So this one, I mean, it should be fairly short, but we have Franklin County Sheriff Roger Langevin here. He's going to come up front and just give his monthly report and be available to answer questions. Roger and John and I have met. We reviewed some things last week. It seems to be going really well. It's been very busy.
Yeah, it has been. As I had explained to Carrie earlier and stuff, we had a total of like 513 incidences. I expect that to somewhat stay like that. Out of those, 263 were motor vehicle related, means that deputies self-initiated those incidences for various things, speeding mostly. It's all broken down as to how that was. Again, I don't expect anything to change. It should stay the same. We haven't experienced anything, an increase in, say, homelessness in this area. I suspected we might have. We've had 1 or 2 complaints maybe, but we've had them throughout the county and a couple other towns as well. But all in all, it wasn't as bad as or as bad as it could have been, I think, or what I was anticipating. It was tough to gauge. Yeah, I mean, so that's about it. We're expecting, hopefully, cruisers here at some point. I don't know if we're going to get the Dodge Chargers. Last I knew, they were on the assembly line being built. That's been a nightmare for John to handle. We have found Dodge Durangos and also Ford SUVs out of Buffalo, New York, that are in the lots and stuff. The problem we have is that we only pick 1 or 2 or 3 at a time, and they deal with organizations that take 90 at a time. So they're kind of holding back, but as soon as they commit to us and say, yep, they're going to be on their way in a week, we're probably going to cancel the Chargers depending on where they are and go with either the Ford SUVs or additional Durangos, Dodge Durangos. At this point, we've waited long enough for the Chargers, and the issue we had there is they commit to 7,000 that goes to the southeast, and the northeast only orders 1,000, so they fill their biggest customers first, and then the rest come up this way. So we're basically tired of waiting. I'd like to see them this fall at least, to where you get them on the road and fully equipped and and updated. So that's where we stand with those. We're set now with cruisers. It just will be nice to replace some of the tired ones that are not safety issues, but will become safety issues in the road this winter if we don't take care of them now. So we have a good projection as to how long our fleet is going to last, and replacing 3 to 5 years we're probably looking at.
Nice. Anything crazy happen in town? Anything requiring like a multi-agency response? Everybody seemed to be working well with you, I guess is my question.
Yeah, the north end of town, we're trying to gauge on how busy that is. We're making sure that we document everything and we code it out properly, because I want to see how busy we are. I still want to, at some point, go back to Walmart and go back to the north end businesses and maybe get a full-time deputy for 40 hours out that way. An incident we had recently is a lady came out with 2 shopping carts from TJ Maxx. She was a former loss prevention person there, and by the time we got over there, she was already in her car and on the road. It would have been nice to have had somebody there quicker where we caught her in the parking lot. So we're kind of monitoring those kinds of events. We've got a lot of motor vehicle accidents in that area that we're responding to. It'd be nice to have somebody say if they had to go from, say, Walmart to Hannaford's or Walmart to Price Choppers, it'd be like a much quicker response. Unless they were down at the bay, then it's a longer response. So it'd be nice to have somebody in that area, but I want to have good data to go to them and just collectively speak to them. I initially had done that with Walmart. They kind of liked the idea.
And you're thinking of asking them to pay the bill on that one?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Collectively, in the north end there, just have somebody dedicated to that, the services there, especially with the increase of car dealerships there and everything. It'd be nice to have a little patrol through there more often.
That's good security. How's the swing shift working for you, Friday, Saturday nights? Deputies like that?
Yeah. That's an 8-hour shift. That's not bad. I mean, if I was working it, I'd want to do that.
Yeah.
12 hours seems long, but the guys are loving it. And given the opportunity, like we sent a couple to training, we had some vacations and that type of stuff where we broke them up into 2 6-hour shifts with 2 separate deputies and stuff. So that's also worked well. So no, all in all, I think the patrols are going good. We've had a lot of response. I've seen a lot of cruisers and stuff. We've seen it more often. And I'm encouraging everybody, to get out, to either stop and wave or do something, when they see a cruiser. It's like they might be thinking of something else, but if you wave, they're going to see you and stuff. And it also means you're approachable. If they see you outside your cruiser and stuff, it's nice too. So.
Does anybody else have any questions?
I just one question. I'm just scanning through and it's 500 something incidents. I just see 1 or 2 for fireworks, and I mean I hear them up at my house. They're definitely across the Swanton line. I see a lot of stuff on Facebook, and I think most people, it sounds like it's in the city. Is there much in the town? I mean, the only one in the month of July?
Yeah, there's some in the town. They're so sporadic, and if you actually got to see somebody lighting those things off.
Yeah.
So if you can sneak up, that's awesome. It's tougher to figure out where they're coming from, especially nighttime. You just see them, and it's like, okay, is that in this area, or how close are you?
Yeah.
And that type of stuff. The ones we did catch, we caught one. I don't know if I mentioned it to the board earlier, but the mom called me and was upset that we seized her son's fireworks. And when I read the incident, the son was driving in a car and throwing them out the car to other passing cars. And so obviously got stopped by a deputy that was 2 cars behind.
So that's not legal.
So it's not. No, it's not. So when the mom heard that, she goes, "Oh, keep the fireworks. Good job."
You
So
know
I
it.
talked to my son. So we didn't have that piece of information. So,
Wow.
it's tough with fireworks, Brian. To be honest with you.
Yeah.
By the time
Well,
you
I
get
was
there,
just curious.
they're
I was
over.
surprised there's only, because I would assume if someone called something in on a neighborhood,
Yep.
That's
it
an
would be in
incident,
here whether or not you
Responded.
caught them or not.
A call is an incident, right?
Is an incident.
Correct.
Yeah.
So how does this track, and I'm not asking you to know off the top of your head, but maybe for our next check-in, I'm wondering how our data with you compares to data from SAPD and tracking that to see if the incident counts are roughly the same.
And you're talking overall, Brendan, not just fireworks.
I'm talking overall.
Overall, right. Okay.
Just see, last year with SAPD we had 750 incidents or
We were
less or more.
we were about 350 a month there. We were averaging 4,000 a year.
Yeah, we're going to be well over that.
Yeah, I see.
And things might settle down a little bit more.
The more
But again, we're performance based, so that everybody knows if you want to get ahead with us, you got to show that you're working and stuff, and have an area of interest that we can develop into an area of expertise.
well, if you average 600, what was this last month? 560.
511.
511. Say if you average 6,000 calls this year and last year was 4,500, that probably is more indicative of that we're getting more patrol time on the roads, especially if you can read into that data, like the count with SAPD might have been 300 or 400, but we could have had 100 less vehicle stops a month.
Right. And that could change, Brendan, if you had a case or if say you had a rash of burglaries.
Yeah.
You're going to divert your attention towards that, so you're going to
Right.
relieve a little bit from motor vehicle work.
Right.
And solve some crime.
It's the budget-friendly and also scary aspect of law enforcement is that when you pay for 2 people 24/7, you have 2 people.
It's a huge advantage just being in the towns, and I jokingly say that to Jerry Parton all the time, because when we're up in Richford, it's like we're there. They get a call, you're there within, sometimes minutes. If you're not in town and you're responding from the St. Albans barracks, it's a little tougher. Response time is longer, much longer. So it's a big advantage of being in your patrol area.
Sheriff, it was good to hear that there wasn't an increase in homelessness. And I'm just, if you could tell us a little bit more about like how those complaints come to, how those complaints would come to you, and maybe how you work with those people who are experiencing homelessness, and maybe the property owners if there's a property owner for that.
Yeah, we have Lieutenant Paul Moritz, who's on the board of directors at Tim's house and stuff. You know, we just basically do a lot of phone calls. We're not always successful, but at least people know that we're looking and trying to help out. You know, like right now, for example, in Richford, we're looking to relocate a person off the rail trail. That's going to be our goal this week, is to try to find him a spot. We've removed him once from the rail trail. He went to private lands, and then now we're removed from there to back to the rail trail. So we're working with the state on that. You know, here, you know, we have the Econo Lodge, which has been good. You know, we can relocate somebody there, hopefully. You know, call if they have a vacancy, and then we'll hook them up with services again through the state. So that's been our goal, is try to find a place where we're not responding back and back.
Right, connect them with services. Yeah, great. Thanks.
And to segue, I think one of the things you had mentioned to me also was that John and Roger are working on that other response team to help with more mental crisis, health crisis issues. So you continue to work on that. I haven't forgotten it. It just isn't quite ready to go full time.
Yeah, there's a lot to that. Although we have partnered with NCSS and stuff, we can call them and you know, refer people to services there and whatnot. We also do a lot with Turning Point. You know, Melinda White has been pretty good. She's been to our office to give us training. She gave us some bags to hand out to people that, you know, are having issues. You know, I think those have been pretty helpful. We don't know the success rate of that, only when we go to her. You know, they'll say where they got the bags and stuff. We try to share as much information as we can that's helpful to both of us.
My last question for you: Police Advisory Committee survey in the works. I guess that's for you.
Yep, we looked at draft one. Likely to finish it up for our September meeting, and then put it out in the September-October time frame, and then that means we'll hit every about 6 months, with town meeting day being one survey a year. This one, to be budget conscious, since they don't have a budget, this one will probably be an online only survey. But yeah, and then we, the sheriff's been attending the meetings, and we went through this report with the Police Advisory Committee last Wednesday, and they asked their questions, and I'm keeping a spreadsheet for them and happy to send along as they come along, just to track month to month of the various stuff, so you can watch it change over time and ask why.
And they have a public access to our portal as well. They have a public access. You guys have one of a little more detail than the public does, but so they were, you know, asked to, you know, access that portal.
We should share the portal on Facebook this week. Let people know that it's a service. I don't think we posted about it.
We have posted about it.
We
We just
have?
haven't.
We did?
Just didn't do it this week.
I saw it. Yeah.
Nice to see. Yeah. Nice.
But I mean, if it's over a day, then people probably
Right.
Well,
forgot
yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
So we could do it again.
And then one of us can share it into the St. Albans, Vermont, 05478 groups and pump it out there. Seems like that's what. Sorry.
Oh no, it just got me thinking about Facebook and our committee meetings, and I saw that we had our select board meeting as an event on Facebook. I don't know if the police advisory group, if that's another one that I'm not sure if we just have a policy that all of our committees will be shared on Facebook as events, or if we're doing them for just select.
Right now, we were just doing them for select board meetings. It does take
It does take time.
takes a little bit of time. Like I
Yeah.
think AJ said, 5 or 10 minutes an item, and so I don't necessarily have someone dedicated to that right now. But she
Right.
can do select board meetings. She could do 1 or 2, maybe other a month. Just don't want to add a ton of stuff. It's still busy in planning and zoning right now.
And all the meetings are listed on our website.
Yep.
They're all posted the way they're supposed to be.
So we'll
Channel
keep-
15 shows up to the Police Advisory Committee meetings.
are recorded. They live on YouTube.
We're going to continue to make these public without a password until we have an issue. Right now, I have somebody using the iPhone without an identification. I have voluntarily asked for their information. I have not gotten it yet. Might have to have a policy that if someone doesn't provide information, we might have to remove them from the call. We need it for minutes. I don't think we can put anonymous on the minutes.
Right.
And if someone comes into the building, we ask for their name. So if you could give me your name, I'd love it, whoever's on an iPhone. But right now, we'll try it as long as it's successful. Otherwise, we'll have to go to being password protected.
We should send those folks at Zoom a letter saying that you should have to, like, when you have a call, like the host can put up like a warning that says you have to use your real name for this purpose, like quote the statute, and then if they don't do it and we have to remove, and we say, well, you clicked it, you accepted the warning. That would be nice.
Most people comply.
So I'm
And some-
expecting a
yeah.
developer from Zoom to see this on YouTube, and
Yeah,
I
I'm sure.
appreciate that
I'm sure
we
they're,
make that adjustment.
they're watching our meeting.
We've had software engineers in here for like 3 months.
We
so
did. We had to pull them in though. They didn't
Yeah.
voluntarily just catch us.
Maybe they know people at Zoom.
They did not. They did not just get us. But. All right. Any other questions for Sheriff Washington?
Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So the next item on here is just the Honor Wall Committee nomination reminder. We had previously scheduled a meeting for September. It's under a calendar, so it's on September 13th. We have a pretty good committee, mix of people from some different committees and staff. So I have received to date 1 nomination. That was Gould Suslin, I believe it was. But we're looking for more. Need something to gnaw on when we start our meetings. The goal is to have a recommendation to the select board in December timeframe. So the third item, just a copy. The select board is being copied on that Velco statewide radio project. So getting quite a bit of Act 250 stuff lately. No action required. And that's all I have. I don't have any surprises, right? Well, I will add one more thing. We did actually start moving dirt today at the town hall site, if you haven't seen it. So it was mobilized. Construction trailer was showing up. So if anyone asks you what we're doing, most people know what we're doing. Or if they ask you about status, it's begun.
That's a better response than cleaning up the ditch or getting ready or putting up a sign.
It's a lot more fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to opening a meeting at that.
And it's great. I've loved working with our previous project manager, but I really also enjoy Hunter. Hunter Gomez lives in Fairfax. He works predominantly in this area. He was here this morning. He's going to be here every day. So it's nice. We have someone else watching and working on our behalf.
Well, Rachel at DEW is a Hathaway Point resident too.
Yes. Yep. DEW's one of their leadership team is from here too.
We'll say for the record, and then for all of, like, if you all outlive me on the board and you do another big project, the construction manager form of project delivery has been way better than just doing a contractor. I mean, it's open book. Like, they come up right in front. Their first bid is their margin. Like, you're gonna pay me $325,000 or whatever we paid.
Whatever
you.
it was, yeah, I don't remember.
And we're gonna manage this, and then everything above that is, the subcontractor bid. You see it, you read it, like, you know what. The garage with Connor, we had a good experience. Don't get me wrong; they had good local subcontractors for most disciplines, and Alan and Matt Young and Carrie were there regularly, and it looks fantastic. I mean, every time I drive by there, it just looks
impressive.
great. It is. It's impressive. But from a management standpoint, like, I don't seem to have to think as much as the last time and wonder. Everything's open book.
And also, part of what your wish list that we could do while doing our wish list was Corey worked with someone locally to take pictures weekly who will give us a time-lapse photo when we're all done. Megan has offered to do it more intensely than just 1 week, at least for the first few, for maybe 2 to 4 weeks.
Yeah.
So we're taking pictures and ultimately we'll put stuff on our website.
And Sean Coro is doing it for the rest of the time.
Cold Hollow photography.
He lives in the Bay Area now.
Really?
Yeah. So he's the day I called him. Today we have probably already taken 4 or 5 shots.
Wow.
He got over there today when he saw moving ground. So he just lives near there. So whenever he kind of sees something, he said once a week, but he said he'll probably do more.
And part 2 of his work is?
Yep. October 4th, Monday afternoon, we'll be getting headshots for department heads and staff and select board members for the website. So that way when people see your name on the website, you'll have a face to we're gonna do the big part.
They won't have to wonder if we're the folks they saw on YouTube or Channel 15. They'll know when they see us in Hannaford to come up.
That,
Be
that's
no
fairly that's fairly inexpensive. The whole thing was
That's
actually
worth
not
it.
that bad.
Putting a face with a name makes the office more approachable, which makes it easier to think to run for. Like, just that little touch is huge.
Well, we're gonna have, Gary, me, Alan,
But-
John, Emily, everybody that people interact with, so that way if they look stuff online, they can be, when they show up to town hall, be like, oh,
Be
that's
like
the
a little
person we
button.
need.
Email me.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna be nice. Website looks great. You're doing a good job.
That would be one of the final touches.
Yeah. Well, it'd never
It's
be
never
final.
done.
Yeah,
It's
never done.
something
Right.
we review monthly, and
Just when you
people
think
send
you,
us things,
Yeah.
and we update them, and
just
and
when,
the questions we get. I mean, and this goes to the public. Like, if there's something you can't find and you want a quick answer to, we're building out the frequently asked questions, but until we get the frequently asked questions, we don't know what people are looking for. So, however they interact with the website, just comment to us and let us know what you'd like to see, and things we don't think about will change.
work in progress, always. Anybody have anything to add about website? Anybody noticed anything they like differently? Okay. So, afternoon of October 4th.
I'll send out dates when we finalize it.
Bay Park?
Mondays work best for him, and I thought they worked well for us.
Yeah. We'll have a meeting that night.
Well, that's kind of what I was saying that one. Because he does the school pictures for a lot of schools, but most schools don't do Mondays.
He does like 90% of senior pictures in Franklin County too. Literally.
He's a well-known name in town. And,
Wow, for good reason too. He does good work.
yep. So
Is there going to be a recommended running regiment for the month before?
If there
I'm
is,
just
we'll ask you to
curious.
develop
So-
it. Feel
Give
free to
everyone
develop.
time. That's what October.
Yeah, I know.
We did October because we thought it'd be you might cut
Like
from
6
the fall.
weeks.
I was thinking like the stone house.
So Brian, what we really need to do is get baggier clothes and
Hire makeup people.
yeah.
I get Sean said he'd be willing to take pounds off, $1 per pound or something like that. But yeah,
Man.
that's a private paying.
You
thing.
start
saving.
10 cents a pound. That's a fair price.
That is a fair price. Okay.
I'm joking.
$5 a picture, and then I'm not obese anymore. It's the way it is, and it's what it is. All right,
Up to schedule.
perfect. Next meetings are Wednesday, September 8th, and then Wednesday after Labor Day, and Monday, September 20th. And the Honor Wall Committee, if my kid's one of this, like 6% of kids that are born on their actual birthday, I'll have to zoom in for that one on their
Yeah.
due date. I'll have to
You'll
zoom
be busy.
in. I'll zoom in from, it'll be cool. That'd be neat.
I'm sure that your wife will love that. For the record, we
She
did not
supported
suggest
everything
it.
I've done to date. I have no reason to think.
Oh, yes, you do. You do.
That conversation hasn't happened yet. It's the anvil. I'm just walking around. But, all right. So we'll start with 8B, ARPA funds investment objectives. Carrie and I had a really good productive meeting with the Village of Swanton. Their trustees were very open to allowing us to work with their village manager. They view their utility as a public good to create capacity for development that helps everyone. We complimented how they've handled themselves at the Highgate Airport and working with Highgate, and there's, a lot of reason to think that we could be successful with them. So we're looking forward to continuing that discussion. So where that ended up was their engineering firm, which is Aldrich and Elliott. We've used them for a couple things in the past. They know Aldrich and Elliott, know Swanton's infrastructure forward, backwards. So they reached out last week, they being Swanton Village, to Aldrich and Elliott and said, is there anything you could recommend that might be low-hanging fruit? Or anything that you think could make a big impact that wouldn't be a gigantic lift? So we're gonna try. The first thing Carrie and I said when we got there was, we don't have a specific objective because you know this business better than we do, and we think if there's a objective, it's probably gonna come either out of talking or by you telling us, because and I think that's got a lot of potential. Then next Monday on the 23rd, we're meeting with the town of Georgia's select board and administrator, and we're gonna have the same conversation. There's a discussion to be had about our south end, their north end, just like with Swanton, it was our north end, their south end. There's, Carrie had mentioned with Swanton Village, there's the decentralized systems that only have so much capacity, but you can build them decentralized and localized. There's thought maybe that we could build something that could handle some aspects of even our industrial park, and then give them some capacity in their north end of town to see some commercial build out. And with Swanton Village, at least we recognize the fact that we're able to provide really, really high quality municipal services and still maintain a low municipal tax rate because of our commercial and industrial taxpayers and the growth we've seen over the last 50 years. There's a lot of towns out there that go like 16 hours a day with Vermont State Police coverage, which is almost Wild West territory, depending how much, state police will tell you they're short. And we're able to provide 2 deputies 24/7 and a third one at peak call volumes. I mean, we're buying 48 hours of coverage a day, $100,000 a month. And if we didn't have an industrial park and the North End Growth Center, we might be buying 20 hours a day, and have a 50-cent tax rate instead of a 40-cent tax rate. So, we want to do some targeted investments to increase commercial and industrial growth to stabilize things.
I also think you just might want to make it clear that there are very limited uses of this ARPA money.
Oh, definitely.
And water and sewer is one of the only things we can spend on. So some people who might think we can spend this money on sidewalks or roads or lowering property taxes, we can't. There's like 2 or 3 things that can be spent on, and it has to be spent by a certain time, or it goes away.
Yeah.
I just know conversations coming into town hall, people think like that money can be used for anything else.
Yeah, use it for stormwater for half a dozen times in the last couple of weeks. We can't. Well, that one I think we actually could, but
We could do stormwater or water and sewer. That's basically all we qualify for.
So the thought is, with approaching other municipalities, is that you build a project. The hardest part is the upfront funding for pre-development, because that costs a fortune, and usually you don't have a bond to pull from to pay for it. And then it's, usually these projects cost so much that there needs to be debt service, and it's a heck of a lot easier to split it with a partner than it is to go it alone and leverage your grand list, or tie up the entire local option tax for 10 years until we get people hooked up. It opens up opportunity.
There's also a lot of grant money for water and sewer systems to go after, and in this this new infrastructure plan from the feds, there's going to be even more likely to come in, and just grant applications with the state look better when it's multiple municipalities that are going together. So,
Well, Swanton Village is
like Swanton got almost a total of $2 million. We're getting almost $2 million in the ARPA. That's $4 million joint. If we go out and get grant money on top of it, you might be able to pull in $6, $7, $8 million, all said and done, between what's coming in the state the next few years to the project, with it before it even goes to any other path. So that's just, that kind of money has never really ever been on the table.
And Reg Bellevue, the village manager for Swanton, one of his first, his inclinations were to reach out to the entire congressional delegation to let them know that we're working on something and that we may need money just to plant the seed. And we are internally trying to do a better job of communicating with our congressional delegation. We've invited Senator Leahy's staff to attend the town hall groundbreaking, and we're working towards better communication. So that, and the Census redistricting results came out last week, and I can say that according to the results of that, this local legislative body presides over the largest population of any locality in Franklin County. And we have some of the strongest growth in the entire state and the region. 16%. There you go.
State of Vermont grew at 2.5%. Franklin County, one of the few growing counties, grew at 4%. We're 45% of Franklin County's growth in the last decade. Just shy of 7,000 people, and
We're probably over 7,000 now. That was April 2020. We built homes.
Yeah, we built 36. We've permitted 33 or 34 homes since then.
And some of them are for people who, you know, like sell their house at a
Mhm.
discount to their kids and build another one just down the road. And
That's
s-
right.
You know,
Yep.
so we're excited for what that means, and we're still defining what that means too. It's new news for us, and we waited a long time to get it.
It's probably the first time, I don't know every town, but it's probably the first time in 100 years that the largest municipality in the county hasn't met the city up.
Yeah. And we're
And that's only when. we split.
Almost certainly, yeah.
no we
Pretty close. Yeah.
so when we separated, we had 1,500 residents, and they had 6,000, and they grew to almost 9,000 in the 60s or 70s or 80s, right in that time period, and we've just steadily grown. Every 10 years, there's a jump. Even during the Depression era, we saw more.
Well, we didn't really start our growth till the 1950s. Big growth. We grew
Big,
like
big
$100
growth.
a year, 100 a
Yeah, but
decade.
that's a lot when you're talking on 1,000 people. That's
But
10%.
We've probably doubled since the 1980s.
Yeah.
I think it was like 3,400. And it was either 1970 or 1980.
So
It
we-
was 3,400.
And it's hard to make this comment without sounding it like it's a dig at the city, but our urban center grew to almost 9,000 people and has since receded down to probably accurately 6,700, somewhere in there. And we've grown from between 1,000 and 1,500 to almost 7,000, and I would be shocked if we didn't hit almost 8 by 2030.
We've grown almost 40% since the turn of the century. So 20 years, we've grown almost 40%.
So when people ask, you know, St. Albans is turning into something different. It is. I mean, in 20 years, it turned from a town of 5,000 to a town of 7,000, and that looks different. There's a bigger staff to maintain more miles of roads, and it's going to keep escalating. That's why we built a town hall that's bigger than we need today, and a public works facility that's bigger than we need today, and we're going to grow into the future with that. And those investments will be capitalized on. And that lends itself back into the importance of creating commercial industrial growth, because you know, as soon as your tax base is heavily residential versus your commercial and industrial sectors, the rates rise and usually the services decline. When you have, you know, a lot of good. Anyway, we could have that discussion all night. So my other objective is, we've all seen the 5-year capital plan as it's been approved, and you probably looked at it and wondered, we're not really on the map. We've had to do some things off script, especially with the town hall, and that really put us off script because it took all of the funding for like a year and a half. We probably need to revisit it and talk about all of our, when we know there's things out there that are going to cost us millions of dollars, and we haven't figured out a way to pay for them. And it's the dock, the stone house. If there's ever going to be anything done with this building that's not donating it to, and we've got some legs to talk with NCSS about maybe using this as part of their SOAR campus or for their administration. So there's something, you know, we're actively seeking suitors. Ideally, we'd like to get this building back on the grand list. But we should quantify. Black Bridge is another one. We've got it's a structure crossing on Dunsmore Road that's narrow. That's probably a big box culvert waiting to happen someday, or even a small scale bridge. We haven't sat down and really quantified, and I mean we've done back of the envelopes and tried to put stuff together, but I think we need to come up with. And I know select boards don't like to commit to long-term plans, but you know, Black Bridge might not need to be done till 2035. And I know Alan's had people Alan himself has gone under that bridge and looked at it, and you know, we are paying attention. We're not totally ignoring it. We just need to pay attention and now find out how we're going to fund it. And I don't know if that's $100,000 a year for 20 years out of the local option tax. I don't know if it's $400,000 a year for 10 years. But I think we should try to build this capital plan as long as it needs to be, and come up with what do we need a year to fund that, and what does that look like, and then just start knocking them off. Alan?
I recently had a structural engineer look at Black Bridge and just got the report. So there is some maintenance already to be done on it. So having a fund with some money set aside in it could go to keep these bridges maintained.
Which
we
is
have to get a whole separate engineer to look at the membrane on top. beams and the cement abutments and everything underneath was done with a structural engineer, but we don't do anything with the asphalt and membrane. So I gotta look into a different engineer to do that part of it.
When you're gathering the information, and this again, it's a 3 to 6 month project. I think ideally we've all heard from taxpayers a lot the last month since the stormwater utility bills hit. Really, you know, quite honestly, what's that?
School property tax.
Well, yeah.
That's what they're not.
No, they're not. I tell you, the school tax homestead rate went up 11.7 cents. We raised the equivalent of 3 cents on our tax rate, and have heard 10 times the flack, if not 100 times, really. But what I'm hearing, because we represent our neighbors, and when they make comments, we should share them. And if you've heard anything that you want to share it. Why wasn't it voted on? And the education around that is it was an ordinance, and the public doesn't vote on ordinances. If we wanted a non-binding referendum on whether or not we wanted to enact a utility ordinance, that could have been a discussion, but you can't actually have the community vote on whether or not to create the utility. Other part of it is, why not just use the local option tax to pay for it? It's $600,000 a year worth of revenue, and the town and our taxpayers are responsible for about $400,000 of that. So we're saving $200,000 a year by doing a utility by way of sending the state of Vermont a bill for $80,000. Nonprofits, heard from some folks specifically at Collins Pearly, and they got a $6,300 or $6,600 bill, and it's a learning curve. They're a school district, they're a nonprofit, they're not used to getting bills like that from the town, but that's how we protected the homeowner. And at the end of the day, that's why the utility model is what works. We've proven, we've quantified that $50 annual bill would have been $100 to $400, depending on the size of your house. And you got away with $100. And because of that, we had to go to other stakeholders that have impervious surface. The state of Vermont is the least painful one. Maple Run, NMC, all our other churches, nonprofits, it's City of St. Albans. It's a learning curve. But we've funded our MS4 obligations, and we've got a qualified department, a utility leader who's finding us money left and right. The state of Vermont sends every utility a check for $25,000 a year for having a utility. Did not know that. Emily knew that. She got us last year's too, because we enacted it in September. So we got $50,000 coming just because we hired somebody. So when somebody comes to you and says, you pay the stormwater person $85,000 a year, yes, we do. They are qualified. We're going to bring in grant money that's going to more than pay that salary back every year. That's the plan. And if all of a sudden the tap on the federal government gets turned to close, and we've got to come up with money for projects out of our pockets, that's why we have $600,000 a year coming in. Because we realize that, you've got some of these stormwater issues are on private roads, and when you tell somebody for 3 years in a row, we're working on it, we're applying for a grant, and then, we didn't get the grant. Or we did get the grant, but we were off on the numbers, so we got to give the grant back. It doesn't work. We had to come up with regular funding. So that's but yeah, you can't just bleed off the whole local option tax to pay for one issue, has been my response. But that doesn't mean we can't quantify all of these other projects and put 100% of the funding in the bank over time in a reasonable way. And we should, quite frankly, we probably should ask the voter that question. We're going to have to anyway if we choose the local option tax. So I think over the next 3, 4, 5 months, maybe it's a goal, and it might not be possible to hit as we dive into it, and that's fine too. And maybe we should have a plan that we're asking the voters to fund from the LOT in March to take care of all these things. Feels like the last 4 years we've been playing catch up on a lot of things, and it'd be nice, as long as we're playing catch up, to know that we have the money coming to be able to do it with, because that's half the battle.
So that conversation around the capital improvement plan, is that going to be kickstarted by us with the planning commission? Are we going to provide guidance? Are we having that conversation here as opposed to with the planning commission? How's that working?
I'm coming to you guys tonight to say this is what I'm seeing and how I'd like to kind of approach it. Mm-hmm. Wondering if you guys want to wanna go forward in that way, and then everything after that's a, you know, whether or not it's that exact idea or a version of or something different, it'll be a group decision, like anything else. I personally like the idea of, you know, asking the planning commission to, you know, I don't think it needs to be the planning commission, honestly. I think a lot of these projects, we've got studies on the shelf. You know, we've got one that's 4 years old on the dock. Maybe we could be presented with different options from different studies and then have somebody like a Hunter Gomez give us a quote, you know, for $4,700, I will take these few numbers that you've given me for these projects and bring them up to roughly today values. There's that approach. There's a million different ways to do it.
Well, I'm wondering if one of the conversations we could have is if we do continue to have like an annual meeting with the planning commission. You know, I think we've talked before with the planning commission around, you know, goals that the select board might have or goals that the planning commission might want to propose to the select board. So taking that into consideration, because there may be, I mean, I think that from the minutes we could see what might be coming up from the planning commission, but since I had typically sat with them to think through the capital improvement plan, you know, just making sure we're thinking in through, or just even setting just an expectation of what it would look like. Because I know one thing that I've really appreciated over the last several months has been, you know, the focus on, you know, Corey's brought it up with the planning commission and with us, just reminding us about all the different steps that are involved, and not, you know, previously in the planning commission it was like, we'll just allocate this money per year, but it wasn't thinking about so much around, okay, if we do this, what is the work that has to happen? So building in the administrative steps and the, as well as the financial piece, I think will help us keep on track. If we know like what work needs to happen starting this year or next year, and then we have the dollars behind that work, and we can track our progress.
Well, then
that way.
eventually the town plan will tie into this as it's redone, or a version of it as we add more things to it. And then ideally you want a town plan, a capital improvement plan, and then kind of a staff that wants to just use it as their objective. Like, that's where we're gonna get to. The last,
Well, ideally, there's 3 things planning works on. I can't remember the third one, but this is done every 5 years. So the town plan gets done every 5 years. This was just approved in, you know, the winter of 2020. We thought we had a good 2 or 3 years reprieve, but if you as a select board decide you wanna update it, then I agree with Aaron. It should go to the planning commission, so you talk about what, and with your, you could provide input about what projects you think are important.
yeah, maybe that should
The
come
costs
from,
specifically are later. First, we need to decide what projects you want, and then Corey and I can decide, okay, how much do we think it'll cost to build?
Mm-hmm.
You know, we
Yeah,
can get you that
yeah.
info.
Mm-hmm.
so I guess,
And are you guys looking for new build or just purely assets who already have it? Maybe, you know, we've deferred maintenance too long.
right now, I'd like to be able to go to the voters in March and say, this is how we're gonna take care of everything we own. Because I think right now, you have folks that are saying, you're gonna build these sidewalks, you're gonna do this, you're gonna do that, and what about that dock? Or what about that bridge? I don't want that to be a trip hazard as we get to where we wanna go with like the health path. Eventually, we're gonna have to ask a multi-million-dollar question on that health path. And I would hate to say, you know, you got no plan for the dock, go fix the dock. What about the stone house? You know, if we say we've got $175,000 a year that gets transferred from the local option tax into a separate fund that's managing on a schedule, and, you know, everything's set, I think then it becomes a different conversation.
I mean, that's a really aggressive timeline with everything else we got going on.
No,
It's-
and it might
it's
not
almost
happen that way.
Well, I mean, it's just almost
Yeah.
September, right? We're gonna start budget discussions in October,
Yep.
and they're all gonna be done by mid-January, so I don't know if we might have some of it, but I don't know if we'll have all of that tied up
They
in a
don't have to
bow.
be perfect numbers. Like,
I don't know. I feel nervous about that. I'd like, if we're gonna say that, I'd like it to be really confident of those numbers.
well, err on the side of caution, I guess. I
Yeah.
mean, put a 4% inflator instead of 2. You know, whatever it needs to be.
So are you suggesting that the capital improvement plan would be updated going into our budget conversations, or?
I don't know that it needs to be exactly into the budget conversations. The capital improvement plan as we have it, we're not really following it at the moment.
Well, I think that's one of the things that, you know, when we've talked about the capital improvement plan, like, it is a plan, it is a guiding document, but it is not, you know, it hasn't been voted on as our guiding principal. So, you know, we've had to kind of do different things with that funding, but we didn't, you know, it wasn't like we were locked into this. I think, you know, if there's a proposal to change things in such a way that it becomes more of that guiding, binding document, I think let's give ourselves more time to really, like a longer timeline to get that really tight before we present it to the voters and say, like, here's what we're gonna do, would be my suggestion. I don't know if we as a board will have time to really wrap our heads around something like that and capture everything. Like, do we need a satellite safety garage on the other sides of town? Like, you know,
the
those
fire
are the things.
station is another unfunded liability. We know we're gonna need to do something.
Right. So I think there's a lot for us to, you know, yeah. So I think I'm with you in that, in thinking through a plan that gets us more nuts and bolts into what we need to be spending and saving.
Because the one that we have is a good step, but it's more like it doesn't anticipate, you know, it's flatline funding for 10 years, which I don't know that helps us. It's round numbers when they probably don't necessarily want to be round. It's $100,000 for sidewalks. The Planning Commission just recommended $250. Like, is there a middle ground? Is there a response that says, hey, we know that this is a $300,000 a year liability to fund these 3 replacements and 2 new builds that we need, so now we can't meet $250, but we can do $150? Like, what? I don't know. I just want to have that conversation.
Are we saving now, even though we don't have hard numbers?
No,
Other stuff that's
every dollar that comes from the LOT up to $2 million between
So
now and
it's like-
February, $2 million from a certain date, up to the quarterly payment in February of this coming year, has been totally allocated to the town hall. Everything after that could follow a plan, but we're still
Yeah, I'm just thinking, even
operating.
if we don't have hard numbers to save money, it's a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, you could say,
It saves in that account anyway.
right, it just builds up.
Right.
So if we want to take an extra year to figure it out, that's fine, but we've got to, like, also say, okay, we're not going to figure out a solid number for sidewalks for a year, because we're going to figure out every bit of it and make it all work together.
Just so you guys know, Timeline Planning Commission, they've started the bylaw rewrite, so they're just getting into that. My guess is be November before it gets to you guys.
Probably later.
I mean, but that's
Yeah.
the earliest it gets to you, so adding anything, you know, I don't think they'll be able to have a fruitful discussion.
Well, you're going to need a little while to pull all the studies off the shelves.
Well, we've got
gotta
to
look at
well,
what
we
we
need.
have.
I guess we can talk to them about identifying, as well as you guys, the list of just, and we can talk to, you know, Bobby and Alan and others. We just got to know, like, what are the areas that
Yeah,
we gotta
okay.
look at.
The
So
next
you
2
got
months
registered.
could be us lobbing things back and forth. We could create a short list.
And then from there, we've got to go and try to find if we've got a study we just need to update, or do we need to figure out a funding of a study for engineering. And then from there, you're probably right. It's probably a year discussion by the time we identify what we want to try to knock off in the next 5 or 10 years.
Well, we honestly, it wouldn't hurt to have a year off. I think let the money rebuild up a little bit. Give the voters a year off from having a big question on the ballot, especially after taxes went up and new fees imposed. It's a whole discussion, but I don't like the idea of pumping the brakes on the sidewalk portion of it. But
And I don't know if that part has to be pumped 100%. I mean,
Right.
we've talked about sidewalks and that being a goal, and there was a stated recognition that by using the LOT to help cover the town hall, that sidewalks would become part of that priority coming right off of that. So I think that, you know, that's been a goal, and we've talked about how, you know, we've shelved things and waited, but I think that, you know, as this conversation's getting started, we've already kind of made a verbal commitment in these meetings to say sidewalks are coming up. So I think saying, let's think about sidewalks, some smaller funding opportunities that we can do to get us rolling on that as we're having the larger conversation about how it fits in. So we're not allocating a lot of funds in this first year, but we're thinking through those funds.
We're not going to have a shovel-ready project to use LOT
Right.
money in the next 12 months to pay for it. Like,
Right.
we're going to scope the health path, and then there's a lot of easement acquisition and legal work to be done to even build a sidewalk network in the bay.
But you need money to do the
Yeah.
Right.
engineering to get to
Right.
that next phase.
Yeah, I mean, so maybe we want to ask for,
Well, and you want to do the bay until we figure out what the state's gonna do with Route 36 West, because they do that
Well, that's it.
intersection.
I mean,
There's no
you-
point in putting a sidewalk in
Right.
until, and what that intersection
yeah,
should
you
look
like connect to the marina sidewalk and go back to the new town hall is the most
Right.
interesting.
And our top 10 sidewalk projects, it's not necessarily, it has to happen in that order as we've talked about. So if there's an opportunity to work on another sidewalk that doesn't have as many barriers, if it's on a town road, it's not involving the, you know, the state, then maybe that's where, as we're having these other conversations, that's where we're stacking those projects, thinking through all the different timelines that they have to go through.
I guess we're setting the tone. We're gonna have a long conversation. The planning commission, select board are gonna have to do some work on it. Staff is gonna have to lead the charge on getting the list together, and we're gonna take time to do it. So it's not like drop everything now, and then whatever final number we come up with for water and sewer and sidewalks and things that we haven't really defined exactly what we want to do and how, we can, you know, make it all work in a way that doesn't strap us.
I'm wondering if during our budget conversations, if we can maybe ask Carrie as part of the conversation with the department heads, just like, what do we need to be thinking about in the next 5 to 10 years? And maybe they can help us come up with, there might be some things on that aren't even on our short list, like from the select board level, that they might, you know, with your, you know, support or, you know, guidance with them, like thinking through, like, what are the things that might be coming up that we need to think about on this conversation?
I mean, we did that exercise also with the impact fees. You know,
Mhm.
that's probably that third thing I couldn't think of. I mean, you go through and you ask them that. You don't ask
Mhm.
them for Christmas list, but you ask them
Right.
for what they need in the next 5 years, and then you put it in that planning document. It's not
Mhm.
exactly prescribed, but all three of those things are supposed to work together.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll have to look at that to see, because I'm
Mhm.
not sure we always reference that right away.
Right. Yeah.
Private development is spurring sidewalk growth in the town too. It's not like nothing is happening. The Haddad Subaru will put something in. If we get Camping World, they will have something. The new Bocan garage is gonna result in some kind of a path on Franklin Park West from the rail trail down to the Rose Center. There's a lot, you know, it's just getting it right from the onset and in a way where we can just follow the plan. And now that the real, like, Town Hall was the, knock on wood, the last real big need to go spend $5 million tomorrow, because, you know, if we turn the coffee maker on while the air conditioner's running, Anna's printer turns off, like, you know.
I lose 45 minutes of work.
No, we
Mhm.
just lose, Corey and I lose our computers and everything that wasn't saved.
There's been a few times I've
Said some choice words myself. All right, yeah.
So, anyway, catalyst, bigger conversation to come. Good,
Mhm.
like, forewarn the planning commission, I would say. It'll take time, but it'll be worth it. And in the end, we'll be able to identify all the things we have in front of us and know that they're funded. So, any last thing, bylaws, when we get into that, and a thing to think about in the next couple months, it'll probably end up on an agenda for us to talk about, and to work through. How do we want to handle legal marijuana sales in the town? Do we want to ask the voters? Do we want to, could we, even if we wanted to, just have a vote and say we're going to allow it?
The state of Vermont legislation hasn't gotten the governor's signature yet, but the latest legislative push has been that every town that doesn't opt out will have legal marijuana sales. That could come in the next year or two. So a vote, if folks don't want it, may need to be required anyway. That being said, the planning commission has flagged having the discussion of where we would even allow it as a conditional use if
Right.
and when it were to happen. So if it happens, the bylaw is already done.
And signage.
Inside.
You've got a grow shop in a prominent area that has a marijuana leaf, a bright green neon, and hey, I'm not knocking anybody for their signage, but do we want to allow that? Because
those will all be discussions that'll come up, and the planning commission would really like to address it, not to take a political statement that the town's gonna or not allow, but if it happens, this is how it would be handled
Just
in our
work it
bylaws.
Mhm.
And so we don't have to redo the bylaw after something happens.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it is on their mind, and hopefully, again, later this fall, you'll see something on that, but the reminder's good. And it's good to know that you guys care about that, so we can make sure it definitely gets addressed.
just thinking it out, because it's gonna happen where it's gonna, even the towns that opt out eventually are gonna have it forced on them, because 200 out of 253 are gonna have it, and it's just gonna be uniform.
Yep, and there's other things too, just for your highlight for the bylaws that aren't just small changes. We are talking to the states. The state's moving to half-acre impervious permitting next year.
For stormwater.
For stormwater. So any development in the state of Vermont anywhere with over a half-acre of impervious surface is gonna have to go through a really rigorous process. And what we're finding in our development in the state is it just takes a long time to get a permit through. So we're just having conversations with the state to see if we were to enact something similar that matched their guidelines, if we would be able to do the sign off here with our stormwater utility, so we could expedite that permitting process a lot quicker. They've already kind of got like not an official agreement, but with South Burlington, they just call South Burlington and are like, does this work for you guys? And they're like, yeah. And so they just moves the permit.
Well, it's a 180-day permit. From the
Right.
time your engineering's done and it's submitted, you gotta expect it to take 180 days as a
Right, so if we
developer.
could shorten it to 30,
And that
that
would
would
be,
help development here in town. So those are one of the other benefits that we potentially could see out of the stormwater utility is.
no, if you tell certain people that, you know, here you're gonna get a permit and an average is 35 to 45 days, that's an attraction.
Yeah, so that we've just seen it with wastewater. Wastewater permits from the state. With my other hat on, I've had to make quite a few calls. It's slowed down groundbreaking on a few projects in the town, and across Franklin County, state's probably just understaffed.
It was bad, and my wife doesn't like it when people say this, but then COVID hit, and now it's like really bad. You
Yeah,
can't
so
get people to return an
We
email.
had a project in the town, one we want built, obviously, and especially done by next April 1st, because then it helps offset taxes. Got administrative go in April and just got their comments last week after I made a phone call. So now the engineer has to go and address those comments and send it back to the state for things. So you're talking, that project's getting delayed almost 6-7 months probably.
180 days.
When it probably could have got done in May. So if that bylaw comes, it'll be because we've addressed something with the state, and, you know, if we have the expertise in-house and we can handle it, and the state, it'll still go to the state, but we can.
You can when you have time. It wouldn't be like a mandatory thing.
No.
I don't
So it'd
see
be
that.
one of those, it would be kind of just to try to expedite, because we see the value in being able to get a permit out the door in 30, 45 days versus 180. But that's building season in Vermont, 180 days. Like that's.
Yeah, and then you take out the bad weather and you're down to like 90.
Well, but if you think about this one project getting delayed a year, probably if it gets open on June 1st instead of April 1st, it'll probably cost the town $15,000 in property taxes. And
Cost the school 30.
30, you know what I mean? Like that's just 2 months.
That's, yeah. That's
So that's good.
interesting. It's a cool idea. That's a really cool idea. I like that. Okay. Anybody have any other business? Talked about a lot of things. All right. So we need a motion to enter executive session to discuss contractual and personnel matters. To invite the town manager.
I'll make a motion to go into executive session to discuss legal, contractual, or personnel issues where premature general public knowledge of the subject matter would place the town or person involved at a substantial disadvantage, and further move to make a motion to enter into executive session to discuss legal, contractual, or personnel issues under the provisions of Title I, Section 313A1 of Vermont statutes, and to invite the town manager.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Perfect.